Hello, Shoyan here. This time, I'm renovating a Japanese-style room into a modern-style one. I actually built this house myself about 22 or 23 years ago, back when it was brand new. Now the homeowner's young grandchild is moving in, and they don't like Japanese-style rooms. So I'm updating it into a clean, modern-style space. Renovations like this, converting a Japanese-style room into a modern one, are probably the most common kind of work I do. Replacing kitchen units and flooring is also pretty common. It's not that people dislike traditional Japanese-style rooms, they're calming and relaxing. But modern-style ones are more popular now. Younger folks who didn't grow up with tatami often find them a bit unfamiliar.
水準やっぱこっち3ミリだけ下がったよなこっちが3ミリ下がったと3ミリ
What usually gets the most resistance is the oshiire. So, for this renovation, I was also asked to add a 1.8 meter closet and rebuild the wall with a white finish. That was the original plan. But keeping the original ceiling made the room still feel too Japanese style. So we decided to go ahead with a full renovation, even if it meant a higher cost. It's pretty rare to get to renovate a house I originally built. When I build a solid Japanese-style room, people usually leave it untouched for quite a while. Like always with a renovation, I start with dismantling. Let's dive right in. In this case, the oshiire is at the back of the room, so I tear that out first, then move on to the ceiling. With Japanese-style rooms, you usually don't need to take down the walls unless you're changing the layout, like removing partitions or adding a doorway. But for this room, the layout is staying the same. We're just changing the style. So it's mainly the oshiire and the ceiling that need to come out. I'll start dismantling from there. I know it sounds odd to say about my own video, but dismantling scenes are really fun to watch. They move fast. It takes about 10 times longer to build than to tear down. There's a satisfying rhythm to it. I'm taking it apart in the reverse order of how it was built. While tearing it down, I realized I built it in the era when we still used both nails and screws, probably one of the last jobs from that mixed period. Nails actually hold better than screws, especially here by the sea where they rust. But when they rust, they expand and grip the wood even tighter. Once thicker nails start rusting, they can actually lock the wood together stronger than glue. They're a pain to pull out though. So when I find a screw during dismantling, I feel relieved. It comes out much easier. Now for the ceiling. This type is called a mesukashi tenjo. It's used in Japanese-style rooms. It goes up fast when using long boards in one piece. But when tearing it down, you've got to cut across the boards and take them out one by one since they're nailed in from above too. Still, it's nice to see insulation packed in the ceiling. This house is about 22 or 23 years old. But even after opening up the ceiling, barely any dust falls down. If this place were near a major road, you'd see a lot of asphalt dust getting inside the house. So location really makes a difference when it comes to keeping a house clean over the years. Now that I've taken down the higher part of the ceiling, I move on to the flooring. I only remove the floorboards, not the entire floor assembly. That's because the floor height needs to match the sliding glass door frame and the entry threshold. The old 15mm cedar planks are just thick enough to throw off the height. So I remove just the old floorboards and lay new joists over the existing ones to get everything lined up properly. With dismantling done, I start working from the floor up. First, I go around tightening screws and hammering down any loose nails in the old frame. The wood dries out over time and starts to loosen. Even if nothing's sagging, the joists can wiggle. So I firm everything up and start adjusting the height.
こういうことやね。よっこいしょと。これが2寸3分ってこれが
The original floor had only about a 3mm slope.
1寸4分当たるやん。
I'm leaving it as is. It might seem like something you'd want to fix, but I left it that way for a reason. Plus, the joist hit the frame on one side. Since the room spans 3.6 meters, a 3mm slope is totally fine. Now I add a second layer of 45mm by 45mm joists, running perpendicular to the originals. So I'm stacking joists on top of joists. Normally, stacking this many layers can cause squeaking, but now we can use screws to secure each piece of wood. Back then, using only nails, there was a limit to how we could frame things. Even if you nailed into dry joists, they'd shrink more over time. A small 0.5mm or 1mm gap could cause squeaking if the joist moves enough to rub against it. Screws, on the other hand, work great. Even if the middle of the joist is floating, screws hold it firmly in place. The most important part here is adjusting the height of the plastic posts. With a wood post, if the height's off, I'd have to cut a new one. But with a plastic post, I just give it a half turn. It's super convenient. Next, I lay insulation under the floor. Originally, this room had styrofoam under the tatami. It might have been even thicker than what I'm using now. Because of its thickness, we didn't use insulation under tatami mats back then. This time, I'm installing a subfloor with 12mm flooring on top. Since I've already pulled up the floorboards, I'm going to go ahead and add insulation underneath. With the subfloor in place, I start laying down the actual flooring. This renovation is just replacing the tatami with flooring in that space. In this case, a wooden strip around the edge, called tatami yose, ends up fully exposed like this. Normally, I need to fit the floorboard snugly against all four sides, which can double the work. But this time, I'm running furring strips along the walls and hanging drywall above that. That brings the wall out by 30mm, so I don't have to fit the flooring perfectly against all the wall edges. Only a small step around the doorway stays visible. The rest gets hidden behind drywall, so the work goes faster. These days, we can easily secure the flooring with staples. 30 or 40 years ago, we used nails called floor nails. They had shallow threads like a loose screw nail. I had to drive each one in and finish it with a nail set. That was a lot of work. Earlier, I mentioned leaving that 3mm slope. That was on purpose, to match the back edge of the sliding door and keep a slide 3mm step at the threshold. If I'd leveled it, I would have lost that offset, so I left it as part of the plan. Back in the day, we didn't use subfloors like this. We'd install flooring directly on the joists. So if the soil underneath was damp, that moisture would go straight into the flooring. That made the boards delaminate and split into about 5 layers. Then the floor would get soft and squishy, and I'd end up replacing it a lot. Part of that was due to the materials, but the way we built things didn't help either. It's a relief to install the last board, since the wall sticks out past the columns and hides the edge. I don't need to fit the board perfectly. And the best part is I can use tools like the floor tauntaun or pry it up using a pry bar there.
結構なんよね。
In the closet section, I leave space for the rail and finish the inside of the closet with the same flooring. I tighten the screws in the window frame and the floor is done. Now I've finished the dismantlement and floor installation. I'll install the ceiling and walls next time. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.